Right, well, this isn't going too well. I thought I'd go on a bit of a longer journey. I've done 40 miles and I'm on 8-mile range. I've got battery warnings. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Rover Turbo. It's been a while. Have you missed me? Good. New car, Nissan Leaf. It's the first electric car I've ever driven, I've ever owned. Obviously it's cheap, 2011, with a problem. It's just been delivered. So let me just give you a little walk around it and what's wrong with it and what the plan is. Right, so it's a 2011, so it's a first generation Nissan Leaf. I have no idea of the history of this vehicle. All I know is it has a problem, which you can probably all guess what the problem is. So condition wise, it's not great. It needs a good wash, so it's difficult to see what condition it's in, but have a little solar panel up there, look. The wheels have been painted black, don't like that. It's all sort of a bit dull and faded. Scratches all over it. The paint's actually worn through here. I've got no idea what's happened with that. I don't know whether they've some scratches in it. Everything's just sort of gone dull. The bonnet's gone dull. The front bumper's sort of got chips in it and dull. You can see that I'm charging it. It arrived here with 12-mile range, something like that. So on the MOT, I believe it had advisories on tyres and brakes. So it looks like it's had 4 new tyres on it, or relatively new tyres. They all look brand new to me. They're all different brands though. The front, you can see it hasn't been driven yet. I think this might have been a Copart car, I'm not sure. And the front brake pads are very low. So this, I believe, the early versions of these all come with one spec, and that's basically everything. So it's got a reverse camera here. It come with the 3-pin plug charging cable, which they call granny charger, and then this is the main charger that you would plug in, you know, supermarket, car park or whatever. But apart from that, I haven't driven it. I've literally just moved it from A to B because I've got no idea what's wrong with it. I've got no idea. The interior is okay, it's quite clean for cream. Obviously it needs a good clean. So I'm not absolutely sure on the spec on these. I thought that they come fully spec'd up from one spec up to the generation 2, but yes, it's got reversing camera, yes, it's got nav, 4 electric windows, auto wipers and whatever, but it doesn't have heated seats or heated steering wheel. So inside you can see the steering wheel, because it's cream, is quite dirty. It's got the aircon, that works. The electric handbrake on these early models. Obviously this is the gear lever, and you drive, neutral, reverse, that kind of thing. So it doesn't have heated seats, and it doesn't have a heated steering wheel, which I thought they did, but it does have cruise. A few other buttons here, I'm not quite sure what they all do. Right, so this is where it gets interesting, because it's been on, it says its estimated charge is 2.5 hours, 68,000 miles. It's got good service history with it, and this is the main problem. Now, whether you're aware or not, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen here, because it's still, if you can see that up there, there's 3 dots, and it's charging the 3rd dot, and it's got to go on to the, sorry, it's charging the 2nd dot, it's got to go on to the 3rd dot. Now it's only saying it's got 27-mile range. So this blue and white segments here, this is the charge in the battery, and these red dots here and these white dots here, they are state of charge. So this should have 12 digits in it all the way up to here. If the battery is good, this means it's degraded. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. So it's got half the battery it's become degraded. So I'm not 100% sure what that means as regards to how long it's going to take to charge fully charged, what the range is, the battery degradation. So the plan with this vehicle, I'm not 100% sure. I kind of bought it for myself to just, it was cheap, and just have an experience of driving an electric car basically. But until I know what the range is going to be, long term, drop the battery and replace the bad battery packs. That's the long term goal for this. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm going to do that, because it's a bit more complicated, because the battery pack is under the car. It's like a Tesla basically. It's not, but it's that kind of thing. The battery pack bolts up under the entire car, and then inside the battery pack obviously you've got your individual modules, and you can buy second-hand modules and replace, find out which is the faulty one and replace them. So that was originally what I was going to do. So yeah, so I've got to get it MOT'd. The washer pump wasn't working, the fuse had blown, so I've got that working. The brakes, the tyres are okay. I've ordered some brake pads, so I've got to book it in for an MOT and get it MOT. I believe that's the only thing it's going to need, but obviously, we shall see. So I will pick it up next time there's an update. So doing a bit more on the Leaf today. I'll go into the battery charging thing in a minute. I've had a few problems at the moment. I'm not set up for electric charging. So at the moment I'm just using a plug plugged into an extension lead. I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm doing it anyway. It's only 10 amps, 2 kilowatts. These are easily rated to that, not a problem, continuous. So I'm going to get something set up, probably connected to the house, so I can get a proper charger hooked up. So I've got to do some MOT prep. I've checked the lights and the wipers and everything else like that. The wipers were really badly, sort of really crusty. And you can't really see that from where you are, can you? But they were really covered in goo and crust and whatever. So I just gave them a clean. Just got my finger in there and just rubbed them all down, and probably give them a quick smear with some silicone, just to get a bit of life back into them. They seem to work fine. I don't think this has been used in a long time. It's been sitting for a while. Probably the owner gave up with it because of the battery range problem. So, and as you can see, it's quite bad. So it hasn't been charging overnight because the extension lead tripped out. The thermal trip, not on this one but on an older one. So we're on the third blob. It's flashing on the third blob, and it's up to 40 odd miles range at the moment. So I'll show you that now. We're up to 38 mile range. You can't see that, can you? Because it's focusing on something else. Anyway, it's up to 38 mile range. Next thing I'm going to do is the brakes. I've had a quick look on YouTube and there's a few how-tos on these, so I'm not going to bother doing a how-to on these, but they're really simple. The brake pads are basically down to absolutely nothing. So the disc is absolutely perfect. There's no lip at all on that whatsoever. So very simple. The wheel nuts are 22mm. And we've got a 17mm nut here, and then we've got a 14mm nut here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the bottom one, and I'm going to pivot that up and out the way and give it a clean up, grease up the pads, put them in, push the piston back. I think these are twin piston. I'll pop the bonnet and I'll take off the cap, make sure that it doesn't all overflow everywhere if it's been topped up. So that's it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bang those in. And I'm hopefully got it in for an MOT book today, so we'll see how that goes. So this is the caliper stripped off. As you can see, I've just taken out that bottom bolt, peeled it up. You see there's twin pistons. I'm guessing because of the weight. These shouldn't technically, because the electric motor, use the brakes that much. That's part of the problem. But anyway, so yeah, just gonna give those a bit of a wire brush up. This side a bit of a wire brush up. Give these the contact points of all the brakes a bit of a wire brush. These are the new pads. There's a very limited selection you can get for these. A lot of people don't even know what are suitable. I'm guessing these are the wear indicators. So that goes on the back. So there's the other pair. And there's obviously for the other side. It did have these on the back. Probably reuse those, anti-squeal. Blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm going to give all this a bit of a clean up, brake clean it all, give it a clean. So a little tip for you, if you've got one of these double piston ones, which is going to be unlikely for most people, it's an American thing or a big vehicle thing. If you push one piston, if you haven't got a proper kit that does both at the same time, if you push one piston in, one piston will come out, and then you put that piston in and that one will come out. So the basic, if you put the old brake pad in there and then push it in, when you go, you have to go from side to side because it won't push them both in evenly. It won't push the other one out, and you won't be going backwards and forwards trying to push them in and out. So yeah, just basically a matter of just winding that in, wind both the pistons in. That's all it back together now. The only thing you do have to be careful of is the brake pads should go into the carriers easily. You shouldn't have to force them in, they should slide backwards and forwards. Now I guess because these vehicles go forever on a set of brake pads, I would imagine that these sit in here a lot longer than you would an average car. So I had quite a bit of problem getting the pads in properly. I had to take these metal shims out and clean all four sides, three sides, to use like a little screwdriver and scrape where this metal shim fits, the actual mating surface. Scrape it, get all the rust off of it, both sides, because otherwise when the rust gets underneath it, it makes the gap smaller, which makes the pad tight, which will mean the pad will jam and it will wear out the pad more. So that's just something you'll need to be aware of whenever you're doing brakes on one of these. So that's basically it. Just make sure your pads are in, make sure they slide backwards and forwards nicely, and then obviously put it back together, literally just that one bolt. So it's fully charged now, all the three blobs have lit up, they've stopped flashing, I've unplugged it, I've done the front brake pads, and now I'm just curious as to what the range is going to be. Now I've already looked, but I didn't examine it. Okay, so we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars of range, bars of battery health, and I've got a full charge, and I've got 44 miles left. Right, if I put it into drive, I've got 44 miles. If I put it down again and go into eco, I'll get 50 miles. So that is pretty much what I was told. 50 miles range rather than 80 or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out how to reset. I don't know if you can even see that, I can't see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the trip, and I'm going to see how long that 44 miles or whatever takes to what I actually get, because you know that might drop like a stone as soon as I start driving it. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I've got it booked in for an MOT in about an hour. I've done all my checks, everything should all be working fine. So yeah, so I'll cut back in when I've got some news. Right, I've got the MOT in about half an hour's time, so I'm just literally giving it a quick wash over with a bucket and a hose. I'm just literally going to clean it, rinse it, that's it. Take it for the MOT and see what happens. So that's it now. I'm back from the MOT. I didn't see any point in recording anything down there. You can't anyway in an MOT station. So yeah, it's had an MOT. It passed the MOT with no advisories. So I had a quick look underneath while it was there, and there's no real issues underneath. There's a little bit of surface corrosion which is starting to appear in a couple of places. A couple of the jacking points on the seals where people have not been too careful jacking it up. It's fractured the paint basically, so it just needs cleaning up, a bit of rust treatment and a bit of underseal on the bottom and the bottom of the car, and a couple of little places. It's a tiny little bit. Most of it's all plastic covers anyway. There's nothing really to see at the front apart from what looks like a differential unit, obviously an electric motor. I think there's supposed to be a cover on there as well, but that looks like it's missing. So yeah, basically that's it. It's cost me, to this point right now, this car has cost me, including delivery, the cost of the car, the MOT and everything I needed to do to it, total cost is £1,900, £1,900. So basically the cheapest one I can find of one of these, a 24 kilowatt model, which is what this one is, which I think is also only got a 50-mile range on a charge, is £4,000. It's about £4,000, four and a bit, something like that. There you go. So it's actually a pretty good bargain when you think about it. So there's one thing that I didn't tell you I did. Let me explain to you what I did and what I need to do going forward with the battery health. Just to explain a little bit about the battery health, so I might need to do a little bit of a calculation here, and it's not my strong point. So switch the car on. I've done 12 miles and my range has gone down to 65 miles. If you put that into drive, if you put that into eco, you get 72 miles. So basically I need to do a quick calculation. So when I left, it was reading in eco mode 95 miles. So basically I've used 23 miles worth of range in 12 miles. So that's double. And that's driving in eco mode, and that's also being very careful about acceleration, trying to use regenerative braking. So I may still only have half my battery capacity. Now you can see here, this second line now has got all the bars. Yeah, so 12, so it's got 12 bars. So now it's showing full battery health, obviously, which it wasn't before. Now, what did I do to do that? Well, I used my auto diagnostics to clear the battery degrade history. So basically I went into the car and I went into the service functions in the car, into the battery, and there's lots of things you can do with the battery. You can erase history, you can tell it it's had a replacement battery, you can do all kinds of things in the auto to do that. So basically I just erased all of the history to do with the data that it had on the battery. So what it's done is it's completely reset the battery health, or what it thinks anyway, to its maximum capacity. What the auto also allows you to do is to check the battery for its degradation. So you have to be in a specific status with the car for it to enable you to do that, and I believe that the battery voltage has to be really low. All of the cells have to be under 7 point something, I might be wrong there. You have to have heater on full, you have to have the headlamps on main beam. Basically you have to have maximum demand on the car. So I do need to do that so I can actually get an accurate idea of the actual degrade on the actual battery. So I'm just going to keep driving it as it is. It's MOT'd now, it's free tax, I'm going to tax it, it's insured. So, and I'm just going to keep driving it. And the best way to drive these is don't keep charging them. Drive them until the battery goes down, and then charge it up fully. Don't keep, every time you use it, don't keep charging it. So what I need to do is get a wall socket, a charge point installed, so I can actually charge it properly using the actual 3 kilowatt or whatever charge point installed. So that's going to be my next my next port of call, but obviously I will keep you updated on what this does. So right, well, this isn't going too well. I thought I'd go on a bit of a longer journey. I've done 40 miles and I'm on 8-mile range. I've got battery warnings. I'm probably 3 miles from home, down a country lane, but the way that the range is giving me an indication is nowhere near what it said it was going to be. So obviously I'd need to do another full drive cycle, a full charge and another full drive cycle, before I can actually get a rough indication. It's been on 8 miles for a while now, but it had a 100-mile range when I first started out, which I know is way over what these should have new anyway. So even if you said 80 miles, I'm probably getting 40-mile range out of this. I've done 40, basically it got down to 7 and it kind of really slowed down, and now it's on 4 and I've got it up to 46 miles. So I don't know whether it's still calculating based on the reset that I did, but I was sort of doing 60 miles an hour. But anyway, I had 30-mile range. I'd done about 7 and it plummeted. So anyway, I don't dare drive it any more than that. I have heard that you can take these to 0 and way beyond. Not very far, but once it's to 0, it will still keep going. So 50 miles. So, I mean, I took it on a bit of a drive around the houses. I went from A to B to C, done a bit of 60, mostly country lanes. What can you realistically do with 50 miles? The trouble is, it's not 50 miles, is it? Because you can't go from door to door and do exactly 50 miles, because you've got to remember, when I get to the last 10 miles of that 50-mile range, I'm going to be on 10-mile range. Now, that means I need to be 10 miles from home or 10 miles from somewhere that I can charge it. Now, yes, if you've got a DC fast charge, but where locally is there a DC fast charger? I don't know. Yes, there are chargers in car parks and supermarket car parks, but I don't believe they're DC fast chargers. They're normal AC fast chargers. And this car has only got a 3 kilowatt onboard charger. So if you're giving it AC, it converts that AC with the chargers to DC and charges the batteries. So you're limited to 3.3 kilowatts. So you can't charge it any faster than that on AC. If you've got, I think it's 8 hours for a full charge. Obviously you don't have to get a full charge to get you home, but even 8 hours, that's, you know, you're not talking 5 minutes, are you? So I'm starting to question a little bit how useful this car could be to me. I really want to charge it again now. It's down at 20-mile range. I want to get back up to 40, and I'm not going to worry about going from A to B to C. But I'm really starting to think in my mind, well, actually, hold on, I've just done 20 miles going here and here and here. What about if I need to then all of a sudden, if I'm in the middle of doing part of that journey? It sometimes happens if I'm out and I'm going to somewhere and that's 10-15 miles away, and then I get a call or something from a trade contact or whatever going, right, I need you to come have a look at this. I'll go, right, or can you take me here, or can you take me there? I'll then have to go from that place and then go on. Well, I'm not going to be able to because of the range. So I'm going to keep with it. I am considering getting a proper charger for it, so I don't have to wait, because I think before it told me it was going to be 13 hours or something, I can't remember, to charge it on the 13 amp plug. I was just going to get an outdoor socket installed outside the front of the house, which is close to the fuse box, and then just plug it in there. It would save extension leads and all that stuff, which is working fine. And I've had heavy loads, but not for that continuous period of time, where you can get the full 3 kilowatts charging, which is going to be a little bit better anyway. And you can buy them second hand. People are removing them 150 quid. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep driving it. It looks like that the 47 mile 50 range that it says that I've got, I'm going to get close to that, but I'm really only realistically going to be able to do 30 and give myself that 20 mile tolerance, because you got to remember, when I'm down on those last dregs of battery, I'm going to be in warning zones of 5 miles left to go, and that means I've got to be on my way home and then wait 8 to 12 hours for it to charge. So anyway, there we go. So this is probably going to be the end of the video now. I don't know how long it is, but so thanks so much for watching. Keep updated, subscribe if you want to see more Leaf content. Eventually I'm going to try and get the battery out, and do some more testing on hopefully more cells and stuff that have failed, and actually replace them and get the capacity up a little bit more, even though even 50 to 80, it's not that much more, is it? But anyway, yeah, like, subscribe and all that, that'd be great. I'll see you soon.